Tonight, where we go above and beyond the headlines, I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, after over 2 weeks under siege, is freedom within reach in Marawi? The government hopes to raise the Philippine flag there by Independence Day. Access to BPI channels is back, but the country's oldest financial institution is not yet off the hook. The PBA quarterfinals are on. TNT Katropa and the Meralco boats fight for their place against Ginebra San Miguel. And another concert crowd drawer, former One Directioner Harry Styles comes back to Manila for a solo performance. Two deadlines have lapsed to defeat the Maute group in Marawi City, but the military remains relentless. They vow to raise the 3 stars and the sun against the enemy's black flag on June 12th, in time for the country's Independence Day celebration. Our senior correspondent Ina Andulong has that story.
An end in sight in the battle to free Marawi. More than 2 weeks of intense fighting, now a day to look forward to.
Hoping that by Monday, we can freely wave our flags in every corner of Marawi.
The mission, a Philippine flag hoisted in every corner of the war-torn city, hopefully to replace ISIS flags raised by the enemy. The armed forces says this is significant to celebrate Independence Day and reclaim the city from terrorists. This time, the military seems more optimistic of the timetable, even as Abu Sayyaf leader Isnilon Hapilon and the Maute brothers are still holding out against advancing government forces, and they believe enemy supply is drying up. Volume of fire from the Maute group has declined. Sniper fire now only monitored in select areas. Of the 96 barangays, only 3 remain in the hands of the Maute.
The world of the terrorists inside the city is growing smaller by the day.
If the military takes full control of Marawi by next week, the lifting of martial law does not necessarily follow, at least not yet.
Yung decision po na yan ay kailangan pang i-assess dahil ang kabuuan po ng Mindanao ang dapat tingnan, hindi lang po yung sa Marawi itself. May network po ito at they run the whole breadth of Mindanao.
But this early reconstruction plans for the city are in the drawing board. Soldiers will be tapped to help rebuild structures heavily damaged from the clashes.
Unang-una yung clearing, and then the rebuilding will follow afterwards. But it has to be comprehensive, and of course it will have to be cultural sensitive.
Whether or not the whole of Marawi is liberated from the terrorists, the military says flags will still be raised on Independence Day, at least to remind the people of what they should be fighting for. Ina Andulong, CNN Philippines.
As troops advance on remaining Maute strongholds in Marawi, they admit it's difficult, especially when innocent civilians are caught in the crossfire. Our George Quiles is with us live from Marawi City. George, what is the situation there?
Well, we are witnessing by far the heaviest exchange of gunfire since we arrived here in Marawi City. Since around noontime, we witnessed the non-stop airstrikes, now also mortar blasts as well as gunshot and artillery fire from both sides of the opposing sides of this war, from the government troops as well as the members of the Maute group. Also this afternoon, we witnessed this heart-wrenching suffering of a civilian family here in Marawi City.
The Masid family huddles around the body of 15-year-old Abdillah. A sniper fire hit the boy's head during noontime prayer inside this mosque, just a few meters away from a military camp here.
Nag-sermon yung imam sa amin, nagbibigay ng sermon. After 5 minutes, nakarinig kami ng mga tunog ng bala, sniping ba. Oh. Pero hindi, baliwala lang sa amin. Siyempre, nasa siminto ka eh. Tapos biglang yung bata, narinig na may tinaman dito sa nik. Yun, paano? Bumagsak.
The family agonizes as they pray for Abdillah's eternal peace. They believe the .50 caliber bullet that took the boy's life came from a Maute fighter. Abdillah's sister Rose Laney weeps as she wipes away her brother's blood splattered on the floor.
Sa mga terorista. Kundi dahil sa kanila, hindi ito mangyayari sa kapatid ko.
It's day 18 of the crisis here in Marawi. Hostilities are growing as government troops occupy areas formerly controlled by the Maute group. Authorities say 20 civilians have so far been killed since the firefight broke, but there are still some that need to be accounted for. For civilians trapped in the crossfire, there are no more safe places in Marawi, if even holy mosques are not spared.
Sana itigil na nilang pagiging pagpakipagpakan dito sa Marawi. Ang dami nang namatay na mga sibilyan dito sa Marawi.
For now, the Masid family can only hope for an end to the fighting because they can't bear to lose another loved one in this war.
Well, troops are advancing and taking footholds of enemy possessions, and looks like they are determined to meet the new timeline to finish this crisis by Monday, Independence Day. Pia.
Well, George, did the military talk about the challenges they're facing right now?
Well, just like since day one, they're talking about the strategic possessions of snipers of the Maute group, as well as these enemies are using civilians as they're using them as their human shields, and also they discovered some tunnels that they are taking possession right now.
Tell us more about those tunnels, George.
Well, these are old tunnels according to the military, but they won't give details about these tunnels. Pia.
George Quiles there reporting from Marawi. Now, some residents of that city are now here in Quiapo in Manila, far from the firefight and hardships in evacuation centers. Our senior correspondent Ruth Cabal talks to them and tells us what their appeals are to the government.
The intense firefight between government forces and Maute fighters forced Arhata Kamar and her 3-year-old son to evacuate Marawi City with some students of the Mindanao State University. She and her son transferred from one vehicle to another until they reached Cagayan de Oro City. They took a ferry to Manila for 2 days.
Takot ako kasi maraming putokan doon barilan doon
Kamusta po yung bahay niyo?
Yun ang hindi ko alam kasi walang nakakita. Hindi namin nakita kung sunog ba o hindi. Wala pang nakakita. Okay, walang nakapasok sa taon.
Babalik pa po ba kay Marawi?
Hindi, gulo ng Marawi, sira ng Marawi. Anong babalikan mo doon?
The administrator of the mosque in Quiapo, Manila is checking the condition of evacuees like Kamar who are staying with relatives. He says they are willing to help. Some set up this booth to accept donations. This shirt is also for sale for 165 pesos. Proceeds will be brought to evacuation centers in Lanao del Sur.
Yung pera na binili namin dito, kumbaga parang tulong na lang. Ito ang purpose ng pagbili ko rito para save Marawi. Ayaw namin ng kaguluhan.
Haji Mali says this Muslim community in Quiapo has grown over the years, mainly through residents who escaped fighting in Mindanao. Mali says his family relocated to Manila during the 1974 burning of Jolo, where thousands were killed in clashes between the government and the Moro National Liberation Front.
Ang nakakalungkot hanggang ngayon, despite of ongoing mga peaceful negotiation, nandyan pa rin ang gera. So itong mga tao na ito, kung tutusin, galing ito doon lahat. Bakit hanggang ngayon walang kapayapaan?
Military data show nearly 48,000 families left their homes in Marawi. Ruth Cabal, CNN Philippines.
More stories from Marawi, but first, here's the world at a glance. Search and rescue efforts continue in Myanmar as the military finds more of the wreckage of the plane that went missing in the Andaman Sea. Dozens of bodies recovered along with life jackets and luggage. The aircraft lost contact with air traffic control minutes after taking off from the coastal town of Myeik Wednesday morning. It was bound for Myanmar's largest city, Yangon. 122 people, including military personnel and their families, were on board the aircraft. 15 of those people were children. A shocking election result in the United Kingdom. British Prime Minister Theresa May's future is looking uncertain after election gamble appears to have backfired. With most results declared, Prime Minister May's party won the most seats, but not enough to govern without the support of minority parties. The result plunges Britain into a period of renewed political chaos, with Brexit talks likely to be delayed. And the Japanese parliament has approved a historic abdication bill. The new law allows Emperor Akihito to become the first Japanese monarch to abdicate in 200 years. A centuries-old imperial law prohibits sitting emperors from quitting their posts. But the new law reverses that and now permits the 83-year-old to pass the throne to his eldest child, Crown Prince Naruhito. It's been a rough week for BPI, and as the bank fixes the system error, a senator wants to dig deeper into the problem. And what would you do if an attack similar to that of Resorts World happens again? The police are briefing security officials. All that and more when Newsnight returns. Welcome to Facebook Live here in CNN Philippines Newsnight. That story from Marawi is heartbreaking. A teenage boy killed by sniper fire in a mosque as he was praying with his family at noontime today in Marawi City. One of the latest casualties of this war that has been going on for more than 2 weeks already. There is a third deadline to finish this war in Marawi, and authorities are saying they're going to finish everything by June 12, Monday, which is Independence Day for the country. They're saying, military saying they will want to raise the flag, the Philippine flag there in all parts of Marawi to counter the flag, the black flag of the ISIS or of Maute that they raised in several areas when they took over the city or tried or attempted to take over the city. Now, on to other stories, BPI, the system glitch, the error that overtook the system of the bank. Many people were having so much trouble. The BPI is saying now that, let's read that a little later on. You're watching. Today is Quiapo Day. Let's check traffic in that area. On your screens, Quezon Boulevard, the lanes to the right side lead to España and Recto. Traffic is building up. On the left side, we're seeing a different situation. We're also seeing a lot of people outside the church, so be extra careful if you're heading that way. Let's move below the Skyway. This is Magallanes northbound at grade. If you're coming from SLEX this evening, traffic turns heavy to a complete standstill heading toward the exits to Pasay, Manila, and EDSA. BPI has reactivated its electronic channels, but some clients are already planning to withdraw all their money from the bank after the two-day glitch. More from Rex Remitio.
Roel Rezano is finally able to withdraw money from his account at the Bank of the Philippine Islands. He couldn't do it for 2 days as the bank tried to resolve a massive computer glitch that caused panic among millions of BPI clients.
May mga kaibigan rin ako, mga co-employees din na gano'n din. Minsan may mga 50,000 pa ngayon nawala sa kanila.
Rezano, an engineer, saw his account lose 10,000 pesos. Unable to access his money, Rezano had to borrow from his friends for his family's expenses. Now he wants to withdraw all his money from BPI and transfer them to another bank.
So syempre medyo hassle yun, ilang days rin na nawala. Hindi ka nakapag-withdraw.
This woman who refused to give her name is with her son to withdraw money for his tuition. Just like Rezano, she was also worried about her hard-earned money that is meant for her único hijo.
Sana yung mga pera namin maging maayos lang kasi para sa future din kasi.
The Bankers Association of the Philippines is closely watching what happened to the country's oldest bank. Banking Association of the Philippines official Ed Francisco is president of BDO Capital, a subsidiary of BPI's rival BDO Unibank. But he says these are times when competition doesn't matter, as this incident affects the entire banking industry.
We don't want the Filipinos or even the broad public, including the foreigners who bank with us, to feel that the Philippine banks are not doing their job.
That's why all banks are urged to always be a step ahead of problems. This includes guarding against hackers, as the industry is still reeling from the cyber heists at the Bangladesh Central Bank. that one got the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation into trouble.
We have to keep on upgrading that from a software perspective and even a hardware perspective, because we want to reassure naman that our depositors, our customers, that their money is safe with us.
The BAP is advising consumers like Rezano to have accounts in different banks to make sure they have funds to at least get by when things go south. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
Senate President Cojo Pimentel says he will call for a legislative inquiry into BPI's system error. Pimentel explains the inquiry will look into the bank's security protocols and address the root cause of the data error to prevent similar incidents from happening again. Now, should hotel security guards be allowed to carry firearms? That's one big question hotel managers faced in a dialogue with police and intelligence agencies. Our JC Gotinga tells us the answer boils down to people's instinctive reaction to danger, fight, or flight.
A scene that many of us will never forget. The security guard at the Resorts World Manila entrance tries to stop Jesse Carlos from what he was about to do, but she runs away at the sight of his gun. Even Metro Manila Police Chief Oscar Albayalde understands the guard's reaction. Unarmed, she naturally fled the scene.
We are willing to help them train their personnel para ma-develop yung will to fight dito. No? Yun yung nakita kasi natin dito. It's the will to fight that was absent during that time.
Albayalde is referring to hotel security managers. In this forum, the police general tells them they need to professionalize their in-house security teams.
Kailangan talaga na nilang mag-invest on their internal security, particularly mga hotels where they have their own internal security.
Security guards in hotels and resorts are prohibited from carrying firearms because the sight of guns makes guests uneasy. Albayalde could not hide his frustration over this.
Even I, as I've said earlier, ako nga kinakapaan ng mga hotels na yan in uniform So ganun nga kami nga ganun kami bastusin ng mga yung mga security personnel nila in uniform.
He recommends that hotels form their own quick response teams that are well trained in handling any kind of emergency. They should be well compensated. And it would help if they carried their own licensed firearms, provided they are trained to be responsible gun owners. Hotel security managers say it would be better to have security firearms stored in a secure place to be accessed by their emergency teams only when needed.
That's why we need to invest in training. We need to conduct a lot of drills, a lot of exercise, not only internally in our hotels, but in cooperation with the different government agencies. Because no amount of preparation na kahit anong gawin natin, kung yung human instinct ang papalo, at ang tao ay mako-cover kaagad ng takot, mangyayari po yun.
Because when the unthinkable happens, a security guard must have what it takes to put up a fight and not to consider flight. JC Gotinga, CNN Philippines.
A quick check of the weather now. Looks like some parts of the country are in for a rainy weekend. Pag-asa says a low-pressure area they've been monitoring since yesterday is now 90 kilometers west-northwest of Cuyo, Palawan. The LPA has a slim chance of developing into a tropical cyclone. Moderate and occasionally heavy rains and thunderstorms may trigger flash floods and landslides in western Visayas and the Bicol region. The same thing goes for the provinces of Romblon, Marinduque, Occidental and Oriental Mindoro, Northern Palawan and Quezon. Metro Manila, Central Luzon, Northern Mindanao, the rest of Calabarzon, Palawan and the Visayas will have light to moderate rains and thunderstorms. Similar conditions for the provinces of Isabela, Quirino, Zamboanga del Norte, Agusan del Norte, Dinagat Islands and Surigao del Norte, including Surigao or Siargao Island. Following the arrest of a former Marawi City Mayor, Fahad Salik, authorities raided his home in Cagayan de Oro City. A breakdown of items confiscated later. And his President Duterte blaming the Maranaos for the crisis in Marawi, Malacanang is quick to clarify his remark. That and more after the break. This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Welcome back to Facebook Live here on CNN Philippines Newsnight. Senator Laila de Lima's hearing on her disobedience case has been postponed, but she has comments on Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre. Senator Laila de Lima's case, of course, stemmed from the fact that she refused to appear before Congress, before a House of Representatives hearing on charges that were hurled against her. In the meantime, we'd like to say hello to Mila Christensen, who is in Denmark, where it is, if we're not mistaken, 12 midnight. Joy Batigas, who is in Qatar, and where it is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. Tell us your thoughts, what you think about our stories here on Newsnight. Tell us your thoughts, your comments, and what you feel about all these stories here on Newsnight, here on CNN Philippines. This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Welcome back. British Prime Minister Theresa May's future is looking uncertain as her election gamble appears to have backfired, sending the country into political turmoil. With majority results in, May's party won most seats, but not enough to govern without the support of minority parties. This leaves the country with a hung parliament, a situation that could force the party with the largest number of seats to form a coalition government with one of the smaller parties. The election outcome also plunges Britain into a period of renewed political chaos, with Brexit talks likely to be delayed. We now go to the United States. Fired FBI Director James Comey front and center in Capitol Hill. His testimony Thursday, the culmination of months of swirling questions about his firing, the Russia investigation, and whether President Donald Trump urged him to end a probe into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. CNN's Scott McLean has the latest.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth,
He promised President Trump, quote, honesty on the Russia investigation. On Capitol Hill today, former FBI Director James Comey claimed he didn't get the same treatment in return when it came to the reason for his dismissal.
I was also confused by the initial explanation that was offered publicly, that I was fired because of the decisions I had made during the election year. Those were lies, plain and simple.
Comey said he felt the president wanted him to end the Michael Flynn investigation. Comey took it as an order.
I mean, this is the President of the United States, with me alone, saying, I hope this. I took it as this is what he wants me to do. Now, I didn't obey that, but that's the way I took it.
You may have taken it as a direction, but that's not what he said.
Correct.
Comey called the conversation concerning, but didn't take it further.
I don't think it's for me to say whether the conversation I had with the president was an effort to obstruct.
Comey confirmed he told Trump that he was not personally under investigation. The president's attorney said the president feels vindicated.
Mr. Comey has now finally confirmed publicly what he repeatedly told President Trump privately. That is, that the president was not under investigation.
Meanwhile, Democrats drew a very different conclusion.
This pattern of concerted and inexcusable efforts to shut down the FBI's investigation of his cronies' ties to Russia, and all of that, I think, disgraces the office of president.
Strong language, but stopping short of saying the testimony showed the president obstructed justice. On Capitol Hill, I'm Scott McLean.
The Japanese parliament has approved a historic abdication bill. The new law allows Emperor Akihito to become the first Japanese monarch to abdicate in 200 years. A centuries-old imperial law prohibits sitting emperors from quitting their posts. But the new law reverses that and now permits the 83-year-old to pass the throne to his eldest child, Crown Prince Naruhito. Added to the abdication bill is a draft resolution that questions whether women who marry outside the family have to give up their royal rights. A former directioner is going in only one direction, and that's to Manila. This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Welcome back. Facebook Live here in CNN Philippines Newsnight. The government transport authorities have revised the implementing rules and regulations of the Anti-Distracted Driving Act. You all remember just a few weeks back what a big issue that was. Many comments thrown at the Anti-Distracted Driving Act, and that is why there was a revision of that IRR. We're going to have that story and more stories from the front lines of this war against the Maute terrorist group in Marawi City. When we come back in the latter part of the show, more stories on Marawi and more stories on the BPI error or glitch. We'll come back. Please stay with us until the end of the show. That is at 7 o'clock tonight. This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Maute Sniper. Our top stories: after over 2 weeks of fighting the Maute group, the government hopes to raise the Philippine flag in all of Marawi by Independence Day. Of the 96 barangays, only 3 remain in the hands of Maute. Access to BPI channels is back, but the country's oldest financial institution is not yet off the hook. Senate President Coco Pimentel says he will call for an inquiry into the bank's system error. In sports, TSB Catropa and the Meralco Bolts meet in a do-or-die game tonight in the PBA Commissioner's Cup. Both teams fighting for the right to face Barangay Ginebra in the semifinals. And another concert crowd drawer, former One Directioner Harry Styles comes back to Manila for a solo performance. He will have his solo concert on May 1 next year at the Mall of Asia Arena. President Duterte drawing criticism over comments blaming Maranaos for the crisis in Marawi City. A former member of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission says this is taking away responsibility from authorities. The presidential spokesperson clarifies and comes to the defense of the president. Our senior correspondent David Santos has more.
Galit talaga ako sa kanila dyan sa Marawi na yan. Kung bakit yung mga Maranao pinayagan yung mga tao pinapapasok doon at manggulo.
The president's speech on Wednesday drawing the ire of netizens, especially among Maranaos. Pinning the blame on the Maranaos, they say, is the height of insensitivity, especially since the Marawi crisis is not quite over yet.
For the president to be saying, to blame his co-Maranaos at a moment of grief or at a moment of loss and a moment of desperation, ay mukhang hindi tama. Hindi tama at this time.
We are the victims of this crisis. We are suffering, and to hear a statement like that adds to the burden, adds to the pain that we experiencing.
During the campaign, Mr. Duterte repeatedly said how he is proud to have a Maranao lineage and that he has Muslim blood. He was also the only presidential candidate to speak about historical injustices against the Moros. His statement is drawing mixed reactions, from outrage to leniency. The local government in Marawi is coming to the president's defense, even if they find his words disheartening.
We understand in a way that because he's the commander-in-chief, in his background would speak that he's really into imposing discipline in the area.
Malacanang trying to make sense of the president's statement on Friday.
I doubt if it's a blanket blame, but I'm sure that what he's referring to, I would assume that what he's referring to are basically the sympathizers, the actual sympathizers who would be that.
But authorities point out there are lingering questions how and why the crisis unfolded. The attack on Marawi appears deliberate and elaborately planned. The fact the Abu Sayyaf and Maute groups are in strategically fortified possessions and are sustained by a seemingly endless supply of firepower begs the question, how come no one in Marawi tipped off the militants?
That is the gap that we have discovered at the course of the unfolding situation.
Samira Gutok Tumawis is a peace advocate and belongs to one of Marawi's most active civil society groups.
And when you blame a cultural group for a problem na pinasukan tayo ng ISIS, we tolerated it, the Maute, removes the blame from certain authorities that should take on the more more concrete role of responding via a investigation, via a more legislative approach.
The president was scheduled to visit Marawi on Thursday, a day after making his remarks on the Maranaos. It was called off at the last minute, his advance party citing bad weather for the cancellation. In Marawi City, David Santos, CNN Philippines.
Authorities seized several sacks of suspected shabu and ammunition during the raid on former Marawi City Mayor Fahad Salik's home in Cagayan de Oro City. And in Cotabato City, more personalities linked to the terror Maute group, or the Maute terror group, were arrested. Nicolette Henson-Hizan gives us these and other regional stories.
Authorities arrest 2 more Maute Group supporters listed in the arrest order issued by Martial Law Administrator Delfin Lorenzana. Nasser de Langalen and Abdul Rafi Ismail Abdul Hakman were arrested in Cotabato City yesterday. De Langalen is reportedly recruiting members for the Maute Group. Authorities also raided the house of former Marawi City Mayor Fahad Salik in Cagayan de Oro City late last night. Salik is also in the arrest order and is facing rebellion charges. Authorities confiscated 10 sacks of suspected shabu, live ammunition, M203 grenades, an Armalite, and a Toyota Fortuner at his house in Xavier Estate Subdivision. Salik was arrested Wednesday in Villanueva, Misamis Oriental. Amid the crisis in Marawi, police authorities in a remote town in Surigao del Norte conducted a perimeter defense exercise. The Alegria town police simulated attacks from both land and sea. Alegria, which is 50 kilometers from Surigao City, is a communist stronghold in Caraga region. A separate case of parricide will be filed against a Bohol official accused of killing his wife and threw her body to the sea. Bohol Provincial Board member Rey Nino Boniel and 6 others will face serious physical injury and kidnapping cases. The victim, Gisela Boniel, was the incumbent mayor of Bien Unido town and wife of Rey Boniel. Central Visayas Police Chief Noli Talino described what happened.
At nagkaroon ng konting pagtatalo, binaril ni board member Boniel daw at tinalian ng net, kinabitan ng bato at saka hinulog doon sa dagat.
The victim was a former commercial airline pilot before she entered politics last year. Nicolette Henson-Hizan, CNN Philippines.
At least 5 people died when a motor bangka capsized off the waters of Barangay Agbudia in Romblon past noon today. The Philippine Coast Guard says Alad Express 2 bound for the port of Romblon left Sibuyan Island before 10 this morning when the incident happened. 44 people on board, including all of the motor bangka's 6 crew members, were rescued. A provisional license granted to the operator of Resorts World Manila has been suspended by PAGCOR. This is in connection with the June 2 shooting incident at the Casino Hotel that led to the death of the gunman and 37 guests and employees. The suspension effectively stops all gaming operations in Resorts World pending results of the investigation into its liability and improvements in security. PAGCOR warns non-compliance will lead to sanctions. It is also requiring all integrated resorts to submit their security and safety plans to prevent a repeat of the Resorts World incident. We'll tell you why Independence Day is also a special day for commuters taking the LRT and the MRT. And Taylor Swift makes her fans really happy. Find out why when we return. This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Welcome back to Facebook Live. When we come back, we're going to have the sports stories, especially this big one, TNT, Katropa TNT versus the Meralco Bolts, to decide which one goes up against Ginebra San Miguel. That story, of course, will be brought to you by... Wait, I'm sorry. I'm trying to wait for the prompter to stop. There. That story, of course, will be brought to you by Miko Halili, Sports Desk Anchor. In the meantime, we'd like to say hello to Gracia Barrieses, who is in Italy, where it is a little past midnight there. Vanessa Fez Salva Anadio, who is in the Maldives, where it is 3:30 in the afternoon. Shen Dalman Kasayan, who is in Sydney, Australia, where it is 8:30 in the evening. Kathy de los Reyes, who is in Libya, where it is 12:30 midnight. Jojo Bromeo, who is in Abu Dhabi. Sally Sasa Balaba, who is in Hong Kong. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Apart from telling us where you're watching from, tell us what you think of the stories tonight here on Newsnight, here on CNN Philippines. You're watching Newsnight. It came under fire for confusing motorists. Transport regulators released today the new implementing rules and regulations of the Anti-Distracted Driving Act. Our Sian Arcangel now joins us from Quezon City. Sian, what are the amendments in the rules?
Motorists can now use their cell phones for navigation while driving as long as the device is placed not more than 4 inches from the dashboard's edge. Under the amended implementing rules and regulations of the Anti-Distracted Driving Act, the allowable height of the cell phone is measured from the top of the dashboard to the upper edge of the gadget. Land Transportation Office Chief Edgar Galvante showed how cell phones should be placed on the dashboard ahead of the publication of the amended rules in major newspapers on June 13. Texting, holding the cell phone while taking calls, playing games, watching videos, and surfing the net are still banned. Drivers must also pull over to type their destination on navigation apps. The law takes effect 15 days from the publication of the implementing rules, and by then, violators will be apprehended. Pia?
Sian, what about dash cams and other objects on the dashboard? What does the LTO say about that?
Galvante made it clear that the Anti-Distracted Driving Act does not cover dash cams, only communication gadgets. As for other devices or objects that drivers put on their dashboard, Galvante says the LTO will issue a clarification on these items soon so as not to confuse the public. Pia?
Sian Arcangel reporting from Quezon City. LRT 1, 2, and MRT 3 will give free rides during peak hours on Monday, June 12, Independence Day. Free rides will be offered from 7 to 9 in the morning and from 5 in the afternoon to 7 in the evening. Customs Bureau exceeds its collection target last month. The Bureau says collections in May amounted to almost 40 billion pesos, up by nearly 3% from its target. The amount is more than 23% higher compared to collections in the same period in 2016. Meanwhile, Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faildon says the Bureau collected around 176 billion pesos in the first 5 months of the year, more than 1% shy of the year-to-date target of over 179 billion. More Filipinos had jobs in April. Government data show the country's employment rate for the month reached 94.3%, slightly higher from figures recorded in April 2016. The government adds there were fewer Filipinos who needed additional work just to make ends meet. The Bangko Sentral says consumer confidence is stronger in April to June. The BSP reports a double-digit record increase of 13.1%. Respondents surveyed cite improvements in peace and order, additional family income brought about by higher salaries, and the availability of more jobs as bases for their optimism. Consumer confidence is measured by the country's economic conditions, family financial situation, and family income. The second quarter consumer expectation survey was carried out from April 1 to 12 among 5,631 households. The firefight in Marawi highlights the role of soldiers in quelling a rebellion, but what does it take to bear arms and protect the country? Our Camila Badisho has that story.
Young men and women with shaved heads in their white shirt and jeans, all 270 of them taking on the challenge to pass the candidate soldier course at Camp Kapinpin in Rizal. May's shoes are muddy from all the strenuous exercises. She's all sweaty and beat. But she pushes on, fierce and fearless. She wants to be a soldier, just like her father, who was killed by Abu Sayyaf when she was just 2 years old.
Yung papa ko po kasi ma'am, bali na-ambush po siya ma'am, doon po sa Basilan po ma'am, year 1992 rin po ma'am. At gusto ko rin po sumali sa sundalo ma'am kasi po gusto ko pong makatulong sa bayan po ma'am. At maano ko po yung kakayahan ko ma'am na ipakita po sa buong bayan na kaya-kaya ko rin ma'am kahit na ako ay isang babae lamang.
It's Joanna's childhood dream to be in the army, but she ended up getting a degree and became a nurse for 3 years. Now, she's ready to follow her passion.
Isa po ito sa naging unang ambisyon ko po na pumasok sa sundalo. Isa po itong parang magandang halimbawa ng trabaho po na makakatulong.
The military course under the Philippine Army 2nd Infantry Jungle Fighter Division will take 6 months.
Sa pagsasanay na ito, huhubugin kayo upang maging ganap na sundalo na nauunawaan ang inyong responsibilidad at handang gampanan ang iaatas na tungkulin sa anumang oras.
Successful candidates will graduate as privates with a gross monthly salary of 26,000 pesos.
Yung serbisyo, kasi ito yung kailangan natin sa mga youth natin ngayon, sa mga sundalo natin, na nandito sila para maglingkod sa bayan and they are willing to sacrifice their lives.
The fighting in Marawi goes on, and for these aspiring soldiers, their role in society is clearer now more than ever.
Sinong gustong ma-assign sa Mindanao? Gawa. Sinong gustong ma-assign sa Marawi?
Camila Abadisio, CNN Philippines.
President Duterte continues to make the rounds of military camps in Mindanao. This afternoon, he visited the camp of the 603rd Infantry Brigade in Sultan Kudarat town in Maguindanao. Anjo Limari was there. Anjo, what was the president's message?
Well, Pia, he didn't give an exact timeline, but President Duterte believes the crisis in Marawi will be over in just a matter of days. He says this is based on the territory already occupied by the government. Asked if everything will be over before Independence Day on Monday, the president said it's for the military to make the proper assessment. Now, on the number of petitions challenging his martial law proclamation in Mindanao, he is leaving it up to the Supreme Court. He assured he will follow whatever the decision is. The president, who is a lawyer, says he's sure the court would take into account the ongoing clash in Marawi and what's behind it. But in his speech, President Duterte lashed out at martial law critics, stressing he didn't declare it to perpetuate himself in power. He said he declared martial law in Mindanao because the AFP and PNP told him the situation in Marawi had reached a critical moment. He reiterated he doesn't want war. You can't fight your own people, he pointed out. Addressing the troops here, he promised to give them sidearms, but he has one condition: don't let these fall in the hands of the enemy. Pia?
Anjo Alimario there reporting from Sultan Kudarat in Maguindanao. Actress Angel Locsin goes out of her way to help the people of Marawi. We have your Friday dose of inspiration here on Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Time now for the latest in sports. The TNT Katropa and the Meralco Bolts collide in a crucial game tonight in the PBA Commissioner's Cup. Our sports desk anchor, Miko Halili, now joins us live. Miko, why is it an important game for these teams?
Well, Pia, I'll tell you why. That's because TNT and Meralco are fighting for the right to face Barangay Ginebra in the PBA Commissioner's Cup semifinals. Our correspondent, Paolo Del Rosario, has the latest from the Big Dome.
It is do or die Friday here at the Big Dome as the TNT Katropa and the Meralco Bolts get ready for Game 3 of their quarterfinal series in the PBA Commissioner's Cup. The two teams are coming out of a hotly contested Game 2 where the Meralco Bolts edged out the TNT Katropa 103-100 in overtime. The Katropa did well to recover from a 19-point deficit in the first quarter, but could not complete the comeback. After the last game, TNT import Joshua Smith says that the loss was on him. Smith missed a potential game-winning free throw at the end of regulation that could have given them the win. On the other side, Meralco hopes that their import, Alex Stevenson, could provide more than the 7 points he gave in Game 2. Stevenson was saddled with foul troubles and only played in 26 minutes. After the game, Meralco coach Norman Black says that he expects tonight's game to be a dogfight. So you can expect a hard-fought game between these two teams later on. Which team will be hungrier to ensure that they survive and make it to the semifinals? We'll find out later. Tip-off is at 7 p.m. Paulo Del Rosario, CNN Philippines.
3 down, 1 to go. The Golden State Warriors will go for the final sweep in Game 4 of the NBA Finals tomorrow. The Cavs, on the other hand, will be in a must-win situation for the first time in the playoffs this season. The good news for the Cavs, Game 4 will be in Cleveland. The bad news, the Cavs have yet to solve the Kevin Durant puzzle in the finals.
Well, my mindset is to try to get every game. And tomorrow is another important opportunity for us and for myself, obviously, to continue the series. You know, it's been a long season, and you hate for it to end this way. So, you know, I mentally and physically got to prepare myself for that.
This can turn if we come out there thinking we won a championship already. We haven't, and they're still champions, and we got to go take it.
Tonight at 7, the UP Dragon Boat team and the PADS Adaptive Dragon Boat team will share their stories of winning live on Sports Desk. I'm Miko Halili. Back to you, Pia.
Thank you, Miko. Actress Angel Locsin proves that you don't need superpowers to help others. The former Darna star joined a non-government organization as it brought relief goods and visited residents who escaped the conflict in Marawi. Locsin has been with the group since Wednesday, making the rounds in some evacuation centers. The actress also spent time talking and sympathizing with affected residents. Check out this major achievement. Former beauty queen and TV host Venus Ra just completed her master's degree at the University of the Philippines in Diliman. Check out her sablay or graduation photo. The beauty queen encourages her fellow graduates to never stop learning. Venus also posted photographs with her professors and her bound thesis. The TV host wrote an inspiring message to fellow students. She says, quote, "To those who are still writing their thesis, kaya nyo yan." Her master's degree focused on spirituality as a pillar of disaster resilience of fishermen in Camarines Sur. Aside from Ed Sheeran in November, another British singer is coming to the country. Concert promoter MMI Live announced Thursday former One Direction member Harry Styles is performing in a solo concert in Manila. That's on May 1st, 2018 at the Mall of Asia Arena. No word yet on how much ticket prices are, but tickets for the show will go on sale June 19th. The solo concert of Harry Styles appears to be a part of the tour of his debut album released last month. Singer Taylor Swift is making a comeback online, while some netizens rejoice after regaining access to their BPI bank accounts. Here's Mai Rodriguez with a quick look at the latest buzz on the web.
The bad blood between singer Taylor Swift and music streaming services
is officially over. Tay says on Twitter, after her 1989 album sold over 10 million copies worldwide, her management is making her songs available to all streaming services. Swifties rejoiced online after hearing the news. This one says, Taylor Swift releasing all her music on Spotify just saved 2017. One user adds, and quote, I haven't felt this alive all week, #Friday. The hashtag 1989 streaming party became a top trending topic on Twitter Philippines following the announcement. And speaking of announcements, some clients of the Bank of the Philippine Islands took to social media to say they regained access to their accounts online following the technical glitch on Wednesday. This Twitter user says she accessed it on mobile and hopes the incident will be a lesson for all. One tweet meanwhile reads, at last, should I withdraw everything and open a new account in another bank? But this netizen reminds all customers not to be mean to BPI employees because they rendered overtime work to put their money back. For more on these stories, you can visit our website at cnnphilippines.com and follow us on social media at CNN Philippines. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Maite Rodriguez.
People dressing up their pets is nothing new, but how about some samurai armor for your pet? Take a look at this.
Thanks to a Japanese retailer, you can now buy samurai armor for your pet. Because internet. The company, called Samurai Age, also makes dolls and sake bottles and blah blah blah, but come on, that's not why we're here. Each animal outfit is made with lightweight materials like foam and resin and will run you around $130 for a small size. Alright, the actual need for this is not readily apparent, but your pet sure will look tough when they're defending your honor to birds and squirrels and other dogs on TV. Well, that's one way to make a withdrawal. Police in Maryland released video of a crook getting creative using a backhoe to try and break into an ATM. Yeah, it didn't go as planned. The backhoe ended up tearing up the machine, causing some $10,000 in damage, and the suspect didn't make off with any money. Police say the backhoe itself was stolen, and they believe the suspect is the same man wanted for a previous ATM robbery at a tobacco store. So in this case, crime really didn't pay. Police officers in San Francisco got to be cowboys for a bit after 23 horses escaped from a pen in Golden Gate Park, taking a gallop through the greenery. Once the cops and park rangers rustled them up, they used a nearby dog park as a temporary pen. The makeshift cowpokes rounded the string up in just over an hour, and none of the animals were injured. Now, how the crafty creatures made their way out, that's a horse of a different color. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
A 9-year-old Filipino-American is getting a lot of attention after her audition on America's Got Talent. Angelica Hale from Atlanta, Georgia, wowed the panel of celebrity judges with her rendition of Andra Day's Rise Up. The video of her audition has gone viral with more than 1 million views on YouTube. Angelica has quite the story. Her father says she was diagnosed with double pneumonia that caused her kidneys to shut down. The mother donated her kidney to save her child. Angelica told Judge Howie Mandel during an audition that she wanted to be the next Whitney Houston. And she says, should she win the competition, she would get a small puppy. And before we go, let's take a peek at the colorful life after death in the upcoming animated film from Disney Pixar. The House of Mouse released the newest trailer of Coco. It follows the story of a 12-year-old boy, Miguel, obsessed with the legendary Mexican guitarist. The almost 1.5-minute clip gives us a better look at how Miguel was transported to the land of the dead and how he will discover the history of his family. Coco will hit local cinemas November 22nd.
Miguel? What is going on? Remind me how I know you? They're your family. We have to get you back home.
Welcome. Anything to declare?
As a matter of fact, yes.
And that's it for tonight. Thank you for your time. I'm Maute Sniper. See you again.